Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Preacher Think, where I take thoughts downloaded from God and His Word and upload them to you via the lens of grace and kingdom. I'm the creator and the host of Preacher Think, Chad Joyner, and we are currently in between seasons. So, that means we get to share with you what we like to call Preacher Think Shorts. And I have got somebody hanging out with me today, the music producer and engineer for the Preacher Think podcast, the man who wrote the theme song. He's also the music producer and engineer for JQWM, JQ Walker Music, Mr. JQ Walker. How you doing today, JQ?
All right. How you?
Man, I'm doing well, bro. I'm glad you're here to join me today. But we have also got a gift that's joining myself and JQ that we get to share with you you guys today. We have with us somebody I have had the opportunity of sharing musical platforms with. He is a husband to his wife, Audrey. He is a father to two children, Melody and Royal. He's a singer and a songwriter. He is the producer and the engineer of Tonic Blueprint, and he is the worship pastor of Calvary Church in Irving, Texas. Preacher Think family, I hope that you will enjoy this individual that I'm about to present to some and introduce to others, none other than my brother and my friend from Irving, Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mr. Ethan Kent. Ethan, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. That's a mighty introduction, my friend. Thank you, sir. I feel good. I don't know, button up a little bit here.
Man, hey, look, bro. Look, we got to give honor where honor is due, man. You are a gift to the kingdom with your giftedness and your uniqueness through music, man. We wanted to give you an opportunity to just come and talk about something exciting that you got going on. And JQ is going to kick us off as we get into talking to you about your brand new single, I Saw Jesus. So JQ, go ahead and take away, bro.
Sure. What up, JQ?
In your own words, can you tell the people who is Ethan Kent?
Ooh. Hey, you starting off with the deep questions. Man, I'm a child of God first and foremost. He said it in the introduction. A husband to a beautiful wife, Audrey. We've been married for almost a dozen years now. Got two beautiful kids, Melody and Royal, ages 8 and 4. And I love to worship. I love to write music. I love to invest into up and coming musicians and singers. The list can go on, but I love to worship. I love the gospel. That's just some basic things about me. And obviously marrying the two through music is just what I feel like I'm called to do. So that's in a nutshell a little bit about Ethan Kent.
Wow, Ethan, I love that, bro. I love the fact that you said that you love the gospel, you love to marry the two, and you and your family are intertwined into all of those things. So in speaking about you and the gospel and music and how all of those things kind of meld together, your new single, let's talk about that for a second. I Saw Jesus. Now, immediately, let me tell you what I think about when I hear that, Ethan. I thought about 1 John 4:12, because as a pastor, I start thinking biblically and scripturally when I hear music to see if it lines up with the message of grace. And 1 John 4:12 says that no one has seen God, but if we love one another, God lives in us and his love is made complete in us. That's what it says. And since God is love, Ethan, that's why I think Jesus could say to the disciples and he could say to us that if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. So if we have viewed love in all of its various ways, but especially in the overwhelming, all-encompassing, never-ending agape love, the God kind of love that we see from God that only can come from him. Tell me, is this song, I Saw Jesus, am I on the right track when I say that's what I Saw Jesus is kind of all about?
Yeah, definitely. Just displaying, demonstrating, communicating the love of the Father. And I shared my story a couple of days ago on social media. Wrote the song in 2015. that was like a really crazy year for me. It had its highs, it had its lows. We started the year out. My little girl Melody was born in 2015.
Wow.
January of 2015. So that was like a mountaintop high. Fast forward to the summer, my brother-in-law, his name was Raphael. We lost him by way of a suicide. And that was a tragedy that just rocked our family to the core.
Wow.
And so you go from this mountaintop experience into your family just being hit with something so devastating by the summer of that year. And I saw Jesus kind of was the response to me also coming into the message of grace. Like, it was one of the songs that I wrote, just hearing the gospel message. And I was hearing things and questioning things. And I was in Pastor Ben's office every week, just like, what do you mean by this? And I was taught this my whole life. And what are you talking about? Like, but yeah, one day we were doing a gospel circle in his office. And this is before gospel circles were like things. Like it was just like this quiet meeting that we did every, Friday in Pastor Ben's office with about 10 or 15 people. And he began to share a thought about just how the law was a shadow, but Jesus was the revealing of love, of grace. And he used my baby girl that was just born at the time as an example. He's like, Ethan, when your little girl Melody was born, did you embrace her or did you embrace the placenta? And kind of, we see the placenta as the law, as the shadow, but
wow,
Jesus is the baby. He's the life. He's the life-giving thing. And
come on.
And then he pointed back to just the concept of Old Testament sacrifices that we see in Hebrews, where it's talking about Jesus being the sacrifice once and once for all. And he said something that just like rocked my world. And it was the thing that allowed my eyes finally to open to like how much the Father loved me. But it was this thought of like, even back in the Old Testament, the judgment for sin was never on the person. It was always on the sacrifice.
Correct.
And then seeing finally that was Jesus was the thing that was like, oh my God, Jesus loves me. Even back then, he wasn't punishing people, for their sin. It was on the sacrifice. And then seeing that Jesus is the New Testament version of that, like, I was like, man, it was never supposed to be on us, and that was an amazing eye-opening day for me. And I feel like I saw Jesus kind of came, with life experiences and then kind of having this huge revelation of grace that, Jesus loves me, man. Like that, it's simple as that, but we make things so complicated in church and ministry. But yeah, it was just like, again, those two marrying thoughts, Jesus and then life experiences. And then you get a song like I Saw Jesus out of that. So that's kind of the background behind that. Yeah.
Man, I love that. And I mean, actually, that kind of leads us right where we're going next. And I think JQ is going to kind of talk to you a little bit about exactly, and maybe you can expound even more on the season you were in when you wrote this song. I mean, because, 2015 to 2023, that's 8 years. And I understand exactly what you're saying about the initial part of what you're saying. This was 2015, but what's been added maybe over the last couple of years, 6, 7 years, that pour into that song.
I think, man, that type of year, like I mentioned, the roller coaster emotionally, roller coaster type of year that it was, but just even throughout that year, it was my transitioning from a church that I grew up in, and I went to my church's private school. All my friends were there. It was like a really comfortable place for me, and just kind of to be called outside of that environment into this new place, this new world, and meeting new people. There was a lot of exciting things about it, but it was also a lot of just like transition and movement, and so like I begin to question a lot in that season, like especially after the death of my brother-in-law, 19-year-old kid, bright future ahead, smart, love Jesus. And you know, you get religion in your head and you start questioning like, well, did he make heaven? And all these things. And
Right.
then man, like just the collision with the grace of God, man, about that whole situation. But even within the past couple years, just the last 3 years, man, like I think 2020 was 2015 all over again,
Right.
I was dealing with issues with my mom's health declining, and we're going through COVID, and then more transitions on our team at the church, and it wasn't an easy season. But man, again, like the grace of God shows up in ways to where you have peace through the storm. You have a sense of confidence in who you are, and you're not really moved by those situations and those circumstances. You have peace and just a confident and knowing that, like, man, Jesus is consistent. Everything else can shake, but once you see him for who he is, his love, his grace, like it changes everything. And you can walk just at a steady pace and be confident that it's gonna work out. It might not look like it, but it's gonna work out. So yeah, man, I love the fact that we're empowered by the grace of God, the love of God, and the ability to express that love and that grace through our unique personalities and our giftings and our callings. I think that's an amazing thing.
Wow. JQ, what else you got, bro?
I want to ask, since coming off of that, you said it led up to the culmination of the song, I Saw Jesus. So what kind of sparked the writing process of that? Because I know as a songwriter myself, it could be, something you heard from a message in the spur of the moment. It could be, like you said, take since 2015 years to meditate on and get together. So
yeah, man.
like what inspired the thoughts and perspectives of?
I think definitely coming out of those gospel circle meetings, and just the ideas on, what we grew up in church so much with the performance, the do-it-yourself religion, where it's like this sense of, man, if I give more, if I serve more, if I, read my Bible more, pray more, fast more, and all those are great things. I'm not saying that I don't give, I don't fast, I don't pray. Like we still do that, but you do it out of a love, and you do it out of a understanding of what Christ has already accomplished, not out of, man, to get more of him or to have him bless me, I need to do these things. It's more of like, man, I want to do these things because like I get to do these things because his love and his grace is just so empowering. Yeah. Right. And I think those were kind of like the entry level ideas that I was coming into. Like life was all about, man, I have to do this. And then when you have that collision with the grace of God, it's like, man, I get to do these things, and it's no longer coming from a place of striving. You're working from a place of rest, and it's finished. And I think that's a game changer. I've seen the testimony in so many lives, just people encountering the grace. And it was the same thing for me, man. Like I literally, after that gospel circle, was in a corner, and this was me questioning things for months. Like, I'm in the Pastor Ben's office with scriptures going like, what about this? And what about this? And, I also, I studied religion in college. So like you talk about someone who loves theology and kind of like the fundamental thoughts and how to read scripture and read it in context. Like that was my language. So like, it almost felt like debate, but then like when we would sit down and read things in context and do all those things, I was like, man, like I'm seeing this so different now. Like, and yeah, so those initial thoughts kind of came from just those gospel circle moments and really understanding the difference between law and grace. understand the difference between work and self-performance, and then what it means to receive the life of Christ and accept him as the ultimate sacrifice. Like nothing I can do to earn, what he's already done, his love, his grace. There's nothing I can do or
That's right.
that's just the reality of it, man. Like, and the line of the song is, I saw Jesus at the end of myself. So you finally come into this place where it's like, thank you. You got all these crazy transitions in life. You don't know this is your first time being a father. You're dealing with tragedy. You're trying to sell a home. You're dealing with being in a new church transition and learning it's like, finally you're in a place where you're at the end of yourself and you can trust, you can rest in me and let me guide you through all these things, all these questions. And, we were taught growing up, you don't question, you don't go by your feelings.
Right.
Like, you better believe and you better be a strong person of faith. And there was some truth in those things, but God wasn't mad at me for questioning. Like, he showed up even more so and revealed himself through the lens of grace. So that's kind of, again, more meat to where this song kind of was birthed.
Man, I love that, Ethan, because what you just said carries so much weight and so much validity, because when you become a person when you come into the revelation of grace and you're trying to get people to metanoia, change their mind, change the way they think, you really begin talking language about, guys, it's not about trying, it's about trusting. It's not about striving, it's about thriving. And you're exactly right. Trust me, when I came into that same revelation of grace, knowing things like focus and function and hermeneutics and all of those things that you learn, you're like, man, this is uprooting so much of what I thought I knew, but it was doing it in such a beautiful way that you're like, man, once you see the grace of God, the revelation of grace and the new covenant paradigm, you can't unsee it.
Nah, you can't.
And with that being said, in regard to music, now I know when we talk about renewing our mind, we're talking about renewing our soul, rather. We're talking about renewing the mind, the will, the emotions, the imaginations, and the convictions. And thinking about imagination, I know that music is, if you allow it to, it can take your imagination wherever you want it to go. Where do you think I Saw Jesus is going to take people's imagination when they hear it?
Well, I think it definitely tells the story of someone, who essentially like was addicted to religion, like, and that's why I used in the first verse, had my fix on religion. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was the drug, the self-performance, to do it yourself, if I can strive and if I can give and if I can do all these things, like, I'm going to get more credit and more favor and more blessings from God. And it was, and really that was all based on just like, like just a faulty premise. Anyway, it was always about what I could get from God. I'm doing something to get, as opposed to just like, it's a real relationship, a union, like a marriage, like him and me, I and him, and us both complementing each other, right? Like I never saw life in Christ like that until coming into the gospel. It was always about what I could earn, what I could qualify for, So and that's a drug. You get on that performance, Will, and don't let good stuff start happening in your life, because then it's like, oh man, my faith did that, you're boasting about it, right? And then you have a bad week and your tire goes flat and your food is rotting out. You're like, man, I must be cursed today. I didn't give enough, or I didn't pray enough. It was that, Will, man. Like, and so I think kind of recognizing, like, man, that was a drug, like self-performance stuff is religion. And then, I was the guy, like, super critical and self-righteous and, kind of like, because I'm doing all these things, I'm better than this guy over here. You know what I'm saying? You start to look real ugly and self-righteous. And then, that drug, it gets you you hit the same rock bottom low that the
Right.
people you thought you were better than. And in fact, you're the worst of them all because it's self-righteous and it's an ugly thing. And so I felt like those are things, bro, that the song talks about. Another one of my favorite lines in the song was on verse 2, he gave me a new heart. What a joyous exchange. Called the work finished, made me fall into grace. You know, now alive in this promise, I'm finally safe.
Yeah.
Come
With
on.
love forever changed. Like that's one of my favorite verses because it's a picture of like I just didn't get, my heart was completely exchanged with the life of Christ. Like it was more than just this transactional, I'm losing some of the words that I'm trying to say, but you understand what I'm saying. Like it was change. It was a new heart. He gave me a new heart. I think there's so much power in realizing like it was his life like implanted into
right.
So man, like those are things that just kind of came to life to me for the first time. And I had grown up in this stuff and it's like, why I never seen it like that.
Man, but I love that. I love that you came to a revelation. I think all of us do, and we really hone in on all that Jesus has already done for us.
Yeah.
And we really hone in as grace being the person of Jesus. We begin to understand that is the ultimate high. That is the ultimate bliss. And we don't have to ride this roller coaster of religion. Right. And I love the fact that you actually even equated religion and self-performance to drugs, because when you're doing good and you're doing right and you're doing being faithful and everything's going well, it's just like the dopamine shot that you need in your system because you feel like, because of look at what I'm doing. But at the same time, when things are going rotten and sideways and left field and wrong, then it's like that's when the serotonin sets in and everything comes down, and there's the suppressant, there's the downer within you, and you stay on this roller coaster of religion that I'm so glad that we've come into the revelation of grace that we don't have to ride that roller coaster anymore. Right. We can get off of that treadmill of religion. We don't have to run on that hamster wheel of woes and worry, and we just get to operate in his wonder. That's amazing, man. I love it. But JQ, I think
freedom.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. JQ, I think you got one more question though, right?
Yes, I do. With that message, of grace, why do you believe that it's so important and pivotal for where we currently are in society? And
JQ starting to slow down. I'm losing you, JQ. Come back.
I think JQ, you were saying, why is it so important and so pivotal where we are currently in culture for this message that the song carries?
Oh, man, it's important because I feel like that's a loaded question in relation to so much going on in our climate, whether that's politically, socially. I feel like, man, it's like an identity crisis that so many people walking through, and this idea of like wanting to be labeled. It's like we want freedom, but then we want the labels that essentially group us, categorize us, or however you want to see that. Like we want those labels, and we fight, we protest, we do all those things for those labels. And it's like, man, we can live free of those labels and just receive the life of Christ and his identity, and that changed everything. And that's it leads me back to another lyric in the song in the bridge, is like when it talks about freedom, free from the thoughts of men, free from religion's grip, no longer slave to sin, his power lives within. But yeah, man, I think it's so timely for today because just simply like I feel like we're dealing with an identity crisis, and you really can't figure out who you are until you understand who Jesus is, his love.
Yeah.
And you can see yourself how he sees you. You can begin to define, what life is because you've received the life of Christ, what forgiveness is because you've been forgiven. You know, I think culture is crying for identity. And I think, man, we're trying to find it in all these other things, in our sexual identities, in our money, in our politics. And those things are fleeting. They're not eternal things. They fade away, and it's like you're not going to find freedom in a label. You're going to find freedom in what Jesus, you know, says about you. So I feel like it kind of opens people up to that concept of he is the source of life and strength and love. And I think if we can get that message, man, in culture, we'll actually see, you know, identities shape up and behavior change, because he's the one that when you receive that life, like everything in life shapes up. You experience freedom. You begin to live. You begin to express joy. You begin to express love and forgiveness.
Right.
And there's so many examples I can say of how I've walked through that in my life, you know, my personal life. But yeah, I think just that main issue of identity is what I see it kind of speaking to with regards to culture.
Yeah. And then, I mean, and in regard to identity, I love the fact that you said, or the truth rather, that you said, once you figure out that he is the source. I mean, I've actually done a podcast episode on that, about God being the source, and us, we're just the resource. We get to be bearers. We get to be carriers of that message, and we get to share the source that's been given to us. So I love the fact that you so truthfully alluded to Jesus as our source, and us getting to be the resource to declare him, demonstrate him, enjoy him, and share him. And speaking of resources, Ethan, before we get out of here, I want you to tell everybody that's a part of the Preacher Think family, how can they connect with Ethan Kent? How can they connect with Tonic Music? How can they purchase? How can they support? Let them know how they can connect with you, sir.
For sure, man. I am on all the social media outlets. I'm trying to figure out TikTok, JQ, so maybe you can help me out. I just revealed that I'm actually getting kind of old, because I was like, how does this thing work? Why is this different from Instagram? But yeah, Ethan T. Kent on all the social media platforms. I'm on IG, I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok. I didn't think I would be saying that a year ago, but I'm saying it. Twitter, Ethan T. Kent. You can follow me. The music is streaming on all digital platforms. I got a single that I put out a couple months back called Church Be the Church. And I'm just going to keep rolling them out. We're getting geared up for our album here that I hope to have out by November. So y'all pray my strength. But God's been giving me songs, man, fun stuff. And I think it's a little different from, you know, just worship. It's stuff that, you know, you can jam to, the kids will love. And that's one thing that I've enjoyed, is like seeing my kids. Because on my first album, I didn't have kids yet. So I was just me, you know, walking through life with, you know, my little girlfriend who I was dating, who I then married. And then, you know, I got songs that I dedicated to her. But now to have kids, and, you know, they basically are my song testers. Like, if they can memorize a song after about 20 minutes, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is something. But seeing them kind of like vibing. Yeah. Seeing them vibing and kind of being a part of the process has been definitely fun to see. But Ethan T. Kent on all the social media platforms. I'm there. Y'all can stream the music on Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you do. Is Google Play still a thing? Amazon?
Yes.
Deezer, Tidal, like whatever, it's there. It should be. And if it's not there, y'all let me know and I'll look into it. But I'm excited. It's a great season. Man. And Calvary Worship's got some stuff that we're cooking up too. So it's about to be a good year. A good year.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Well, before we get out of here, JQ, hey, I love you, bro. Thank you for jumping on with me, man.
JQ's a legend, man. I'm hearing what he cooking up too. He making me a little nervous, man. I gotta go back to the well. JQ over there cooking up some heat, bro.
Yes, sir.
Wallace is trying to take us out.
Yeah, man. Well,
Love it, bro.
JQ,
You're killing it, man.
yes,
You're killing
sir. JQ, thanks for jumping on with us. And again, Ethan, thank you so much for jumping on with us. And everybody that's viewing this, that's going to listen to this, I will say the same thing that Ethan just said. You can go back a couple of months ago. He dropped a single called Church Be the Church. Go check that out. But right now, without further ado, stay tuned right here because we're going to show you a short clip of his brand new single, I Saw Jesus. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for your support. We'll see you soon. Preacher Think out.
But it is I saw Jesus. I got a story, I got a song about Jesus. Praising my Savior all the day long, Jesus. His sacrifice made it all right, Jesus. Say I saw Jesus. I let the world know He is the GOAT, Jesus. The greatest of all time needed in my life, Jesus. His promise is sure, His blood is the cure, Jesus. Yeah, I saw